once more, I'm doing this right before having to go to a thing. I have to go drinking with friends. That's why I'm wearing a very slutty shirt right now. Going drinking with my girlfriend and a couple of friends. But like, yeah, I'm doing 3 movies again because I couldn't find the time to do it right after. After this video, I really want to do a video per movie. I feel like that's a lot. That's a better flow. But like yeah, same 3 challenges here. The podcast macabre horror challenge, the Criterion challenge, and the Hater Club movie challenge. I watched for the Hater Club movie challenge. I watched Cloverfield, which was for found footage week, and I really like Cloverfield. I've grown to really love Matt Reeves. I mean, obviously, I love the Batman, and last summer I watched the entirety of those new Planet of the Apes movies, and I really love them, especially the ones directed by Matt Reeves. And I've always and I loved 10 Cloverfield Lane, and so Cloverfield has always been such a weird blind spot for me, especially because I do really love found footage movies. I think one of my favorite is it my favorite? Yeah, okay. No, my favorite movie is Wreck, which is a Spanish zombie movie, and it's found footage, and it takes place in a hotel, and I think it was really effective. And so yeah, but here Cloverfield. Now, the Cloverfield movies are very notorious, or like not notorious, they're very famous for just having incredible marketing. And I wasn't alive back then when this whole thing started picking up, but I've heard the legends of the marketing for Cloverfield, and I was there for the marketing for 10 Cloverfield Lane and Cloverfield Paradox. And so like I know that they're really good at this whole like ARG thing, and especially in like my generation really fucking digs ARGs and this internet type of horror and this interactiveness and multimedia type of facet thing. And so like I really, and like before watching the movie itself, I looked up all that type of shit, and it was really cool, but also it's way more interesting than the movie itself. Now, first off, I was not expecting TJ Miller to be in this movie. I'm very glad that he's the one holding the camera so that they don't have to look at his face uh, for most of the movie. But yeah, I didn't, warning. That's like the biggest deterrent for me in this movie. And I don't know. I think it's a good movie overall, and there's really some striking imagery there, like the famous scene with the Statue of Liberty, and it does what a good found footage movie does, that it makes you feel like you're really in there. But I feel like the thing with found footage, especially in horror movies, is that uh, the positive is it makes you feel like you're really in there, but the negative is like you lose a lot of the suspension of disbelief in that. And so like if you're making a found footage film, you kind of have to be like really airtight with the thing. Like you can't. I'm a lot less forgiving. Like I find people annoying when they watch horror movies and like, this is a dumb decision. I would never do that. Like my suspension of disbelief has always been greater, that I can forgive that type of shit, except with found footage movies, because again, the whole point of found footage is that it makes you feel like you're in the thing. And so when the characters in it make a very dumb decision, you notice it more because you're placing yourself in the situation, and it's like, why are you doing this? Like, I wouldn't have done this, and like that matters. Like usually that doesn't matter. Like I wouldn't have done it. Like, show what the fuck. But like found footage, the whole point of found footage is making you believe that you are in the movie, and so like that whole thing really hampers it. And there's a handful of moments in Cloverfield where like this is a very dumb decision you're making, and like yeah, and I don't like the characters just didn't make an impact for me. And again, like what comes with like the stupid choices they make is like, oh, okay, you're only doing that so that you can get to something that's gonna happen, something interesting that's gonna happen. And like so you kind of it tends to become predictable in that way. And again, predictability isn't the thing I usually complain with movies, but like this one, it's all the compounding factors just came in. And so yeah, and I pirated Cloverfield. It isn't anywhere streaming, but like yeah, I still think it's pretty good. It's a pretty good friend group movie, movie to watch with your friends. And so uh, if ever like that's gonna be a good point. And like if you find yourself frustrated with all the things as well, that's another, you can get a value from that with like this dynamic you have with your friends. And I watched this with my girlfriend, and it was pretty fun. That was a pretty fun part of it. And so yeah, that's Cloverfield. Next is I watched the Re-Animator for the podcast Horror Macabre challenge, and that was the prompt was Jeffrey Combs, and Jeffrey Combs is the star in this. And first off, Jeffrey Combs is great in this role. Like he is the amount of like he isn't very subtle. Like this isn't a subtle performance, but he just oozes such the sleaziness. He plays this man with such fucking such crooked ethics that like constantly rationalizes their immoral acts. He plays that type of slimy guy really well, and I downloaded all three movies, but I only watched the one first movie so far. But when I watch the other two, I will be making another video of that because I really, really dug Re-Animator. I fucking love H.P. Lovecraft, and specifically, I love modern adaptations of H.P. Lovecraft when they remove all the not only the racist shit, but like just the sometimes the stiltedness that comes with Lovecraft's writing, and they tap into the potential. And the story that Re-Animator is adapting is actually one of my favorite Lovecraft stories, and it's not a perfect adaptation. There's like a few scenes and a few things that like the movies just don't this movie just didn't adapt, which is a shame. But like yeah, I love this. I wouldn't call it scary. It's pretty gross. It's pretty disturbing. The fucking makeup here is incredible, and it's a modern day Frankenstein, and heightening that to like making it like giving like scientific rules to it, like giving it like sort of academic laws to how reanimating the dead would work. I think that's pretty awesome. And again, Victor Frankenstein, Jeffrey Combs as Herbert West is incredible. I really love him, and just like it's one of those movies again, especially because we know what a Frankenstein story is gonna end up as. We know like where this could only go so many ways. We know that everything is gonna collapse, and so just you get giddy just waiting for that. It's great. And again, the practical effects are just so gnarly, and how they portrayed the dead being resurrected is just really disturbing, and it's quite good time. The only complaint is there's weird sex stuff. I'm not one to complain about sex scenes, but I find and it's a famous scene. Like if you know something about the Re-Animator, you probably know the scene I'm talking about. So and I just found it a bit gratuitous, and the whole subplot I think was appropriate. Like and like the whole what it was going for, I don't think it was a miss. But that particular scene, like to the extent that it played out, feels very exploitative and gratuitous, and I just did not enjoy it at all. But besides that, this was a great movie. I love the characters. The main character has a talking heads poster again. The main character it wasn't the best. He's definitely overshadowed by Herbert West and the professor. But he's serviceable. He's serviceable. He does pretty well, and I love just what horror does, like these character dynamics, and horror doing what horror should, and just heightens all of that into absurdity, into horrifying results. It's pretty good. I highly recommend Re-Animator. I feel like even though I've heard of this film for many years, and it's always talked about in like horror circles, I feel like it just is not given the time of day that it really should. So yeah, check out Re-Animator. And finally, next is I watched Nashville, the Robert Altman movie for my Criterion Challenge, and the prompt was to watch a movie directed by Robert Altman. Now, I had only seen one other Robert Altman movie beforehand, and it was The Long Goodbye, and I loved The Long Goodbye. Like, it's one of those movies that I never, like, if you ask me what my favorite movies are, chances are I'm not gonna say The Long Goodbye, but when I do remember The Long Goodbye, I was like, yeah, that's one of the best movies I've ever seen ever, and it's the vibe of that is great. And Robert Altman, just through watching The Long Goodbye, which is a very LA California movie, and watching Nashville, which obviously is a very Nashville movie, I think Robert Altman taps into the American experience, like paints America in such a way that no one has ever really come close to matching. Like like when I think of like the great American directors, and by that I just don't mean like the greatest filmmakers who happen to be American, but like the filmmakers whose work is explicitly American and whose work is great and a masterpiece. I think of like Martin Scorsese, Sean Baker is a recent one, but I think Robert Altman frankly trumps both of them, which is a very high bar, honestly. And just like this movie was great. It has a very loose plot. It follows like about 20 or plus characters, and we just navigate through the interconnecting events in their lives, and all backgrounded by the coming of a third party presidential candidate, and just it's it what it has to say about America is pretty remarkable. Like it isn't it's pretty three dimensional. Like it celebrates it and acknowledges the dark underbelly of poverty and violence, frankly, that makes up America. But it also has an amazing country music soundtrack. What I've learned recently is that Filipinos are all secretly very huge country music fans. Like we all know why why do we as Filipinos know the song about country roads in West Virginia? Why do we know like every Shania Twain song? And like but like yeah, and the country music here is incredible, and it's so like like there's this beginning song 200 years. I keep listening to it again, and obviously it's like it plays on American exceptionalism, and it's as much a critique as it is like an unironic celebration, but it's also like such a good song. Like it's such an earworm in my ear. That's the whole all of the movie is like that, and it's great. It's one of those movies that just like you just chill with. You just watch people and events unfold, and I really really love it. And those movies are always like it's very difficult because it depends on my mood if I enjoy them, and I really really enjoyed Nashville, and it's very hard to talk about it without spoiling the ending, without going to specific character moments or just specific moments about the movie, because like this is a hefty one. This is one that like I'm a literature student, and this is one you can mine a lot out of what it means. But like yeah, Nashville's pretty great. Out of the three movies, I recommend this the most, and that's it. I'll see you whenever I watch. I don't know, the next movie I think is Better Luck Tomorrow and Paper Moon and Final Destination 5. So when I watch those, I'll see you guys again. So goodbye. I'm off to get drunk.